By faith he kept the Passover and the sprinkling of the blood, so that the destroyer of the firstborn would not touch the firstborn of Israel.
Then Moses summoned all the elders of the people of Israel and said, "Go at once, select animals for your families, and slaughter the Passover lamb. Take a bunch of hyssop, dip it into the blood in the basin, and put some of that blood on the top and on both sides of the doorway. Not one of you is to go out of the door of his house until morning. When the Lord passes through the land to strike down the Egyptians, he will see the blood on the top and on the sides of the doorway, and he will pass over that doorway. He will not permit the destroyer to enter in to strike you down." The Israelites did just as the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron. At midnight, when the Lord passed through the land, he struck down all the firstborn of the Egyptians, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on the throne, to the firstborn of the prisoner in the dungeon, and the firstborn of all the livestock as well. But during the night, Pharaoh and all his officials and all the Egyptians got up, and there was a loud wailing throughout the land, for there was not a house without someone dead.
By faith the people passed through the Red Sea as on dry land. But when the Egyptians tried to do so, they were drowned.
Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove back the sea with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The Israelites walked through the sea on dry ground, with a wall of water on their right and on their left. The Egyptians pursued them, and all of Pharaoh's horses, chariots, and horsemen followed them into the sea. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, so the waters may flow back over the Egyptians and their chariots and horsemen." Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and at daybreak the sea went back to its place. The Egyptians were pursuing the Israelites into the sea, and the Lord swept them away. The waters flowed back and covered the chariots and horsemen, the entire army of Pharaoh that had followed the Israelites into the sea. Not one of them survived. That day, the Lord saved Israel from the hands of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians lying dead on the shore. And when the Israelites saw the mighty hand of the Lord displayed against the Egyptians, they feared the Lord and put their trust in him and in Moses, his servant.
By faith the walls of Jericho fell after the people had marched around them for 7 days.
Then the Lord said to Joshua, "See, I have delivered Jericho into your hands, along with its king and its fighting men." So Joshua, son of Nun, called the priests and said to them, "Take up the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and have 7 priests march with trumpets in front of it." Joshua got up early the next morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord. So on the second day, they marched around the city once and returned to camp. They did this for 6 days. On the 7th day, they marched around the city 7 times in the same manner, except that on that day, they marched around the city 7 times. The 7th time around, when the priest sounded the trumpet blast, Joshua commanded the people, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city." When the trumpet sounded, the people shouted, and at the sound of the trumpet blast, when all the people gave a loud shout, the walls collapsed. So every man charged straight in, and they took the city. They devoted the city to the Lord, and destroyed with the sword every living thing in it, men and women, young and old, cattle, sheep, and donkeys.
By faith the prostitute Rahab, because she welcomed the spies, was not killed with those who were disobedient.
So Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent out 2 spies from Shittim. "Go and look out at the land," he said, "especially Jericho." So the 2 men went and entered the house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there. So the king of Jericho sent this message to Rahab, saying, "Bring out those 2 men who came to your house, for they have come to spy out the whole land." But the woman had taken the 2 men and hidden them. She said, "Yes, 2 men did come to my house, but I did not know where they had come from. At dusk, when it was time to close the city gate, they fled. I do not know where they had gone. Go after them quickly, you may catch up with them." But she had taken the 2 men up to the roof and hidden them under some stalks of flax she had laid out on the roof. So the men got up and went to pursue the spies on the roads that lead to the fords of the Jordan. And when the pursuers had gone out, the city gate was shut. Before the spies lay down to sleep for the night, Rahab went up to the roof and said to them, "Now then, swear to me by the Lord that you will show kindness to my family, for I have shown kindness to you. Give me some sure sign that no harm will come to my father and my mother, my brothers and my sisters, and all who belong to them, and that you will save us from death." "Our lives for your lives," the men assured her. "If you do not tell what we are doing, we will treat you kindly and faithfully when the Lord gives us the land."
What more shall I say? I do not have time to talk about Gideon, Barak, Samson, and Jephthah, about David and Samuel and the prophets.
The Lord said to Gideon, "With 300 men, I will save you and give the Midianites into your hands. Let the rest of the Israelites go, each to their own place." So Gideon sent the rest of the Israelites to their tents, but kept 300, who took over the provisions and the trumpets of the others. Gideon and the 100 men with him reached the edge of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch, just after the guard had been changed. They blew their trumpets and broke the jars in their hands. The 3 companies blew their trumpets and smashed their jars. Grasping the torch in their left hand and holding in their right hand the trumpet they were to blow, they shouted, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon!" While each man held his position around the camp, all the Midianites fled, crying out as they ran.